Hey everyone, and a bloody warm welcome to any new viewers. On Manic Media Dream, we're continuing our ranking of all 6 Scream movies, with Scream 3 taking center stage for an analysis based on our slasher grading scale. Quick recap, the slasher grading scale measures the movie's performance by considering the following criteria at 5 points each for a total of 50 points. We've already ranked Screams 1 and 2, so make sure to check those videos out by hitting the link at the top right of this video and seeing what scores they received. Trilogies don't have the best word of mouth when it comes to Hollywood films. The X-Men films are notorious for screwing up the third movie during their initial Fox run, with The Last Stand, and then during their final Fox run, with Apocalypse. More horror-focused examples would include Halloween Ends, which was a letdown critically and financially when compared to its predecessors, as well as Child's Play 3, which was poorly received by fans and critics considering how high the bar was set by Child's Plays 1 and 2. Heck, Scream itself has already run into trouble with their Carpenter Sisters trilogy, considering that Scream 7 will no longer be starring Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, who set up the continuation of the franchise in Screams 5 and 6. When taking Scream 3 into consideration, it raked in 4 times its production budget, $40 million to produce, and it ended up earning $161.8 million, even though audience and critic responses were mixed. But when using a rubric that evens the odds when it comes to slasher flicks, will Scream 3 live up to the scores of Screams 1 and 2? Is it a good slasher flick, regardless of the numerous production issues that occurred behind the scenes and the mixed fan response? Or will it suffer the same fate as other trilogy enders? Let's find out in 1, 2...
Scream 3. I'm going to let my bias in for a minute, just so I can say that Scream 3 is my go-to Scream movie. I love this movie, and if there was a category for rewatchability, this would get 10 points, without a doubt. It's the perfect Scream movie as far as I'm concerned, and if they ever want to make a live-action R-rated Scooby-Doo movie, they should take notes from this one. But enough fanboying, let's get into some non-biased points because I really want to see how my favorite fares when compared to the rest of the lineup. Kill count is 10, so going with the same calculations I did for Scream 2 and Scream 1, that gives this movie a 4. Strong start again, but will it lose out in the end like Scream 2 did? With creative kills, I thought about it, and I'm going to give it a 4 after initially wanting to give it a 3. The additional point is for the guy who lights himself up and blows up a house in the process, doing residual damage to the rest of the Scooby gang before the topple down Hollywood Hills. There's also that one dude who gets a rug pulled from under him, which again, very Scooby-Doo and very much welcome in as campy a franchise as this is. And you best believe, if you were a serial killer, you would totally play as dirty as Ghostface did in this movie. The voice changer in the movie really impacted a lot of the kills in my opinion, and made for an unsettling and creative way to kill his victims, like Cotton's girlfriend in the beginning thinking her boyfriend had lost his mind, and then Cotton hearing himself knowing full well that he's about to lose his life. So yeah, definitely had a lot of creativity going on, but I'm gonna give it a 4 because some of it was repetitive. Thrilling chase scenes. Not only is Sydney's chase scene on the set of a stab movie the most meta thing this franchise has ever done, it's also incredibly eerie and, in my opinion, improves upon the one in the first movie because of how incredibly traumatizing it must be for Sydney's character. Especially because this time around, it was with the addition of her mother's body and voice. What the fudge? After that, the entire Act 3 is one long chase scene, so they did a great job there. One Ghostface versus a house full of terrified guests? Yes, please. The chase scene that really builds the suspense in this movie is when Parker Posey's Jennifer is locked in the secret passageway and is trying to make an escape. Will she live? Will she die? She's too funny to die. Maybe she'll survive? Damn it, she died. Literally, I was heartbroken. Long live Jennifer, or at least she will in our hearts. It was one stab. Maybe she did survive. Because of all the people in the franchise, I don't know if her death is confirmed. Crap, can't be biased. Alright, moving on. But before I do, 5 points for thrilling chase scenes, for sure. Realism. I'm glad they went the Hollywood route for this, because had they not, this movie would lose points on realism. With the Hollywood aspect, there's practical effects, body doubles, voice modifiers. Okay, honestly, I'm going to take away a point for the voice modifier because that was way too advanced for the year 2000, even by Hollywood standards. And the knowledge for the killer to stay ahead of the slasher flick genre. Because, oh yeah, they are literally operating an industry that came up with the slasher flicks in the first place. The fact that the killer was Roman, a successful Hollywood elite, tied it all together surprisingly well, and the fact that he was Sydney's brother was executed with a lot less of a soap opera flair than I would have thought. I was seriously impressed by the subtlety. As campy as Scream 3 is, 3 for realism, the 4 only would have been possible had it not been for the voice changer. Cast. Okay, listen, Scream is just incredible with casting at this point. You got McDreamy, that lady that married a Wahlberg, Parker Posey, comedic queen, Kronk from Emperor's New Groove, this one guy that I know from an episode of Dollhouse starring Eliza Dushku, and the guy from Felicity. 5 out of 5. Again, I would give it a 10 if I could. Chemistry was palpable. palpable. I don't know how to say that word. Moving on. Motive. Checks out. Sydney's mom was sleeping around. Roman got the short end of the stick. Had his life ruined. Wasn't loved. Orchestrated and radicalized Billy and Stu. Just an angry man with an angry plan. Art imitating life. He could have just processed his feelings and reached out to Sydney to heal through the trauma, but he took the violent road, as most people do. Oh well, I'm sure she would have heard him out, actually. But again, motive stands, and I appreciate that it didn't get as soapy as it could have. 4 out of 5. The horror humor balance? So this is the funniest Scream movie, hands down, but that honestly takes away from the horror aspect of it. Ghostface isn't as creepy as he is in the other movies, and he's a lot more in your face than hiding in the shadows, because it's got that funny, scary Bride of Chucky meets Scooby-Doo thing going on. I will say that the scenes with Sydney's mother coming back from the dead are creeptastic, and it's usually scenes with Sydney that are the creepiest, whereas the rest of the supporting cast honestly just does more comedic work. And considering Neve Campbell had like little screen time in Scream 3 than when compared to Scream 1 and 2, it kind of makes sense that the horror humor balance would, just based on my analysis, be off. Because if the supporting cast is getting more screen time, then the comedy is just going to be more. So it doesn't really have that balance because it moves more towards humor. Brutality. This is an interesting one for this movie because Scream 3 was originally supposed to be way more graphic, but the final product that we got was heavily influenced by the Columbine shooting that had happened around that time. So a lot of the violence and media that was being consumed by teenagers, even though the movie was rated R, was made less explicit. So Scream 3 is probably the least gory of all the Scream movies. They sort of segued the brutality from being gore-focused to literally making Ghostface a thug. Like, this Ghostface was working alone, but also bat crap aggressive. Like, he was punching and slapping Dewey like a pimp wanting money, pulling out carpets from under people, like stabbing anyone he ran into. Like, this guy was so athletic in this movie. Not at all tripping over things or anything like that. He fully just he was a man on a mission. Just being an all-around menace, playing mind games with Sydney and the crew of Stab 3. Just the points of brutality would lose on gore. It actually makes up for in regards to Ghostface just being incredibly efficient and not giving two Fs. Like, the man is like a robot. The points of brutality did lose on, however, was how little gore, like I mentioned, was in the movie. So gore is an important part of Scream. I'm going to give it a 3, but let's get one thing clear. Had the gore been there, this movie 100% would have been a 5. Dialogue. Some of the best dialogue in the franchise. I especially like Jennifer's lines.
My lawyer liked that.
Her quips with Gail.
What the hell are you doing?
Being Gail Weathers. What the hell are you doing?
I am Gail Weathers.
Randy's return and the mystery incorporated dialogue of figuring out who the killer is going after.
Karen Kolchak. Yes, Karen Kolchak. Creepy Karen?
Shut up. She's a sweet person. Paul, 15 minutes, I'm leaving my legacy. The concluding chapter of a trilogy.
And the craziest thing is, it wasn't even written by Kevin Williamson. And that's where I was a little bit surprised by how good the dialogue was. It was written by some guy named Aaron Kruger. But holy fudge, he did a good job as far as I'm concerned. 4 out of 5. Pacing. Perfectly paced. Never a boring scene. Things are either scary, funny, and or moving the story along. This is how you do a Scream sequel. 5 out of 5. Scream 2 could never. Now with the tallied points, we are getting a 40 out of a 50, which is a B- at an 80%. Which is kind of great for an intended trilogy and franchise ender. Way better than Scream 2 and closer to Scream 1. I'm glad my favorite did pretty well. Not as well as I would have liked it to, but as long as it's in the top 3, I'm happy. Let's find out if it will continue to be.
Things are heating up, and I'm excited to see what's in store for Scream 4, especially considering that compared to the close-knit release schedule of the original trilogy, that movie didn't come out until a whole decade and a year passed on by. Will the gap be kind to Scream 4? How will the franchise fare in terms of a remake or revival? Find out only on Manic Media Dream.